Annamarie. On today's installment of the Letterboard of Truth, our quote of the day is Mamma Mia. Here we go again. I don't think I've ever talked about candy as much as I have in the past couple months. Goodness gracious. Well, folks, conservatives have done it again. Yet another chocolate company has found itself in the trenches of a brand new culture war. Mars has been let off the hook this time, now that the candy mascots have confirmed they will still be representing M&ms.
I'm glad to be back because this is what I was made for. I mean, as a walking, talking candy, my options are pretty limited.
However, it's still not all sweet in the candy industry, since Hershey's has recently come under fire for their Women's History Month campaign. Hershey's has released limited edition packaging every March in honor of Women's History Month for the past 3 years. Their 2023 campaign for Hershey's Canada was announced earlier this month. Each Hershey's bar is covered in adjectives like authentic, limitless, powerful, and fearless as a way to empower women and girls. This bar reminds us to take a moment to honor the women and girls who inspire us every day. We hope to spark meaningful, heartwarming connections through the simple gesture of giving a she bar to someone who has played an important role in your life. In honor of Women's History Month, Hershey's has also partnered with the nonprofit Girls on the Run for the second year in a row. Their goal is to continue to uplift women in hopes they realize their limitless potential. Both organizations will be sponsoring an opportunity for mentorship roles with Girls on the Run participants and the Hershey Company leaders at a future CEO event. This limited edition chocolate will be available in Canada from March to May 2023. Like they always do this time of year, Hershey's released their #HerForShe campaign on social media at the beginning of this month. The campaign highlights 5 Canadian activists and leaders in their respective fields.
Some may see the future as dark,
but we most definitely see the light.
because in the future, people like us,
from different places,
different spaces, we are all going after one thing.
Change for the communities we care about. We see the light.
Because the future isn't fantasy.
it's ours for the making.
And we can't wait for it.
This International Women's Day, see the women changing how we see the future
at Hershey's Canada.
Now, let's go through who is featured. First, we have Autumn Peltier, an 18-year-old Indigenous rights and water activist. She was also the runner-up for the 2022 International Children's Peace Prize. Next, there's Naila Malou, who is a teen climate researcher. Then we have Kalisa Masala, the founder of Girl Up Quebec and the president of UN Women at the University of Montreal. Rita Audi is a gender and education equality activist, as well as the co-founder of Period Pop-Ups. Finally, we have Faye Johnstone, a transgender activist and the executive director of Wisdom to Change. So basically, these are 5 very cool, intelligent, and accomplished young women. We love to see it. When #HerForShe went live on social media, many people were supportive of Hershey's message. However, many skeptical users accused Hershey's of using HerForShe as a distraction from their previous lawsuit. This was a point I neglected to address in my M&ms video, so I'll go over it now. Several companies, including Hershey's, Mars, and Nestle, were defendants in a class action lawsuit for alleged child slavery. 8 children claimed they were trafficked and used for slave labor on cocoa plantations in West Africa. They sought damages for forced labor and compensation for unjust enrichment, negligent supervision, and intentional infliction of emotional damage. The case was dismissed in June 2022 because the plaintiffs couldn't show a traceable connection between the 7 accused companies and the specific plantations where they worked. The few people who were calling out Hershey's for their alleged use of child labor were drowned out by the endless transphobic rhetoric from the right because Faye is a transgender woman. Just a warning, the rest of this video will be a discussion of the blatant transphobia, specifically the trans misogyny directed at Faye and other trans women, so please proceed with caution. As you can imagine, the internet was a shitstorm as soon as people found out that a trans woman was featured in Hershey's Women's History Month campaign.
Hershey's is being viciously mocked online for their new ad. They've gone full woke.
Hey, folks, it's Women's History Month. Are you pumped? We finished Black History Month, so I guess we don't have to talk about Black history anymore. And now it's Women's History Month, which means that after this month, we don't have to talk about women's history anymore. I guess that's how this works.
Women, don't worry, we're not replacing you. Don't worry, everything's cool.
Also, don't mind that last guy. He's just mad that Hershey's doesn't have a fuckable candy mascot. I expected conservatives to dunk on any Women's History Month campaign just because they hate when someone who's not a straight, white, cis, able-bodied man is shown in a positive light. They've even coined the famous catchphrase, go woke, go broke, whenever a woman or a person of color or a queer person is featured in a piece of media, as if people with marginalized identities don't exist in the real world. At one point, hashtag boycott Hershey's was trending, and many conservatives vowed to never purchase a Hershey's product again. Happy to boycott Hershey's. The American people are sick and tired of having woke lectures shoved down their throats. We want chocolate, not leftist propaganda. Well, DC Drano, if that's even your real name, have you considered that some of us like our chocolate with a side of leftist propaganda? The left wants nothing more than for me to wrap my lips around a big Hershey's chocolate bar right now. It's not going to happen. Never again. I'm at war. What can I say? All roads lead to Nick Adams.
G'day guys, Nick Adams here.
For the record, Nick, you can wrap your lips around whatever you want. If you keep voting Republican, though, you might not be able to for much longer. Biological men pretending to be women should not be used in advertisements for International Women's Day. One day of the year is dedicated only to women, yet men are now trying to claim this day. Cannot women have anything to themselves anymore? Really? Ollie London wants to criticize someone for claiming things that aren't theirs?
And my pronouns are they, them, Korean, Jimin, because I know a lot of people don't understand me, but I do identify as Korean.
I guess amnesia's a side effect of right-wing grifting. Quite a few disturbing memes were also being passed around with the intention to mock and invalidate Faye. The one I saw the most was a parody of Hershey's packaging with the T slur written across the front. Just disgusting and deplorable behavior. But it's on brand for conservatives. The more they dehumanize people on the opposing side, the easier it is to discriminate against them. These were just a few of the thousands of derogatory posts directed at Faye and Hershey's. I was definitely disappointed but not surprised at this reaction, given that trans people have been vilified by the right since forever. But especially in recent years, given the groomer panic conservatives are pushing in the media. And it's having a real-life impact. Just look at the amount of anti-trans bills that have been introduced in the past 5 years. In 2023 alone, 340 anti-LGBTQ+ bills have made it to state level, and almost half of those are directed at the transgender community. Tennessee just became the first state to prohibit drag performances on public property and eliminate gender-affirming care for trans youth. Unfortunately, many states will or are currently following suit. Ironically, the rise of this groomer panic comes from the notion that trans people are preying on minors, which isn't true, by the way. It's now conservatives' job to protect the children. And I agree, children absolutely deserve protection. But if the right cares about kids so much, then why has there been almost no criticism of Hershey's alleged use of child slavery? For some reason, conservatives are dead quiet when it comes to that. Perhaps the biggest reaction to Hershey's Women's History Month campaign came from conservative news outlet The Daily Wire. Again, none of this is surprising, since their entire platform has basically turned into shitting on trans and non-binary folks. This time, though, the Daily Wire seized Hershey's campaign as yet another opportunity to profit off their transphobia. Co-CEO of the Daily Wire, Jeremy Boring? Yeah, sounds about right. Announced that his company will be selling Jeremy's chocolate in response to Faye being featured in Hershey's campaign. And this is not the first time Jeremy has released a counterproduct in response to a company's wokeness. Up until 2021, the brand Harry's Razors was a recurring sponsor of the Daily Wire. However, Harry's eventually terminated this partnership because of the Daily Wire's homophobic and transphobic views. Harry's is sponsoring Michael Knowles, the same Michael Knowles who is spreading homophobic and transphobic content. He had Joseph Nicolosi Jr. as a guest on his show and equates being trans to having schizophrenia. It is wrong that Harry's or anyone sponsors this vile content. Thanks for bringing this up. We condemn the views in this video, which are inexcusable and at odds with our longtime support of the LGBTQ+ community. We've ended our relationship with this show and are looking into our sponsorships to prevent any values misalignment going forward. To be honest, I don't know how Harry's wasn't aware of the Daily Wire's views. They've never been shy about it. They probably should have done their research, but better late than never, I guess? The Daily Wire did not react well to this breakup. Jeremy quote tweeted Harry's response and said, "Harry's makes great razors. That's why we've been proud to advertise them for years. We know Harry's doesn't share our values. Who cares? Economic decisions shouldn't be political decisions." But now Harry's has decided to declare that conservatives don't deserve great razors. I mean, it's not Harry's fault that you're homophobic and transphobic. That sounds like a you problem, Mr. Boring. This response is so funny to me because these are the same people who argue that bakeries don't have to make wedding cakes for gay couples if they have opposing values because they're a private property. They have the right to say no. But suddenly it's an issue once it affects their income. Interesting. It doesn't stop there, folks. In retaliation, Jeremy released a rival razor brand called Jeremy's Razors an entire year later. Talk about holding on to a grudge, my guy. A year ago, Harry's Razors advertised on our shows, but then they pulled their ads due to values misalignment. Harry's apparently decided that conservatives don't deserve great razors. We disagree. Introducing Jeremy's Razors. Stop giving your money to woke corporations that hate you. Give it to the God King. Man, imagine calling yourself the God King unironically.
But if you've had enough of the woke bullshit and you're tired of paying companies like Harry's and Gillette to hate you,
buy my new razor instead.
Now, Jeremy's Razors has a whole line of shaving and skincare products. Fast forward to 2023, and the Daily Wire released an ad for Jeremy's chocolate on March 3rd, 2 days after Hershey's campaign was announced. Literally the second after Jeremy watched the HerForShe ad, he was like, "Hey, get my tacky Gucci jacket and the guy who looks like Rodney from Flushed Away. We're filming an ad."
International Women's Day is upon us again, and I love an international woman. But our friends over at Hershey's, they don't even know what a woman is.
Whoa! He's wearing a designer jacket and has a fancy car. Now that's a cool guy. I want to hear what he has to say.
They've hired a biological male to be the spokesperson for their Women's Day campaign. And they're calling that campaign, and I swear I'm not making this up, HerShe. HerShe. It's humiliating.
You know what's actually humiliating? Turning your transphobia into a tacky cash grab. What is a woman has entered the chat?
And it's the reason that I'm launching Jeremy's chocolate. We have two kinds, she, her, and he, him. One of them's got nuts. If you need me to tell you which one it is,
sorry, I should have given you more warning about the Michael Knowles jump scare. This ad is the equivalent of writing pen 15 on your friend's arm in middle school. But cool guy Jeremy's like, "Oh, I'm so edgy and cool and interesting because I'm transphobic. You know how I got this fancy car? Because of my transphobia." All jokes aside though, this commercial seems extra insidious to me with the inclusion of Michael Knowles, given that he very recently came out and declared that we need to eradicate transgenderism from public life.
If it is false, then for the good of society, and especially for the good of the poor people who have fallen prey to this confusion, transgenderism must be eradicated from public life entirely. The whole preposterous ideology.
Keep giving your money to Hershey's. But if you're tired of giving your money to woke corporations that hate you, and you're looking for a delicious chocolate bar from a company that actually wants your business, head over to IHateHershey's.com and order Jeremy's chocolate today.
I guess we gotta head over to IHateHershey's.com and check out cool guy Jeremy's new chocolate bar. For just $24.99, you can purchase a 4-pack of Jeremy's chocolate binary, and you'll save $2.97. Ooh, baby. But the chocolate's not gonna ship until May, so by the time the customer receives it, this Hershey story will be irrelevant, and the customer will be like, "Why the fuck did I buy this? I don't remember buying this." The 10-pack of Jeremy's chocolate is $45.99. And finally, you can get a 24-pack of Jeremy's chocolate binary for 100 smackaroonies. And for $8 cheaper, you can get 3 36-packs of Hershey's chocolate bars that are probably made the same way. But if you're mindless enough to purchase overpriced chocolate to own the libs, that probably doesn't matter to you. Of course, all the knuckleheads at the Daily Wire have been promoting the shit out of this shit. My favorite one, though, is by Brett Cooper, simply because of the dramatics.
This should piss off all women.
Because a woman was featured in a Women's History Month ad? I am appalled. We've discussed a bunch of conservative reactionaries giving their take, but most importantly, how did Faye respond? Faye shared her excitement about the campaign on Twitter the day it was announced, but she was swiftly bombarded with hate. Hershey's decided to stick by Faye throughout all of this. A spokeswoman from Hershey's said, "We value togetherness and recognize the strength created by diversity. Over the past 3 years, our Women's History Month programming has been an inclusive celebration of women and their impact. We appreciate the countless people and meaningful partnerships behind these efforts." Recently, CTV News Ottawa invited Faye onto their network to share her thoughts on all the backlash she's received. "It blew up across North American news, across the world," she said. "We saw far-right groups in the US really take issue with my presence and turn this into some heinous political agenda when I was one of 5 young women."
But to me, not everyone knows a trans person. They don't recognize that we aren't a threat. We're just we're not the same kind of woman that y'all might be, but that's not dangerous to anyone. Womanhood isn't just one thing. There's tall women, there's short women, there's black women, there's white women, there's trans women, and there's cis women. That doesn't take anyone's womanhood away. It just recognizes that womanhood includes a whole lot of folks.
I mean, she nailed it on the head. With that being said, I hope Faye is doing okay. Did not mean to rhyme, and I hope they have a solid support system. And I wish that for all the women involved, because I'm sure this hasn't been easy to deal with. It sucks that this campaign has been hijacked, and what was supposed to be a celebration of 5 young women and their accomplishments turned into a transphobic dumpster fire. As of the day I'm recording, these are the only updates that I have, but I guess we'll see as time goes on if the Hershey story progresses like it did with M&ms. Let me know if you'd like to see me try Cool Guy Jeremy's chocolate, although I would rather not give my money to the Daily Wire, so probably not the best idea. But what are my final thoughts? Well, since trans women are women, there's nothing wrong with someone like Faye being featured in a Women's History Month campaign. If anything, I think it's great, since it's important to have representation for all kinds of women. Whether it's cis women, trans women, white women, women of color, queer women, disabled women, older women, younger women, so on and so forth. Womanhood isn't a one-size-fits-all situation. The characteristics of womanhood, like gender norms, behaviors, and roles, are a social construct to begin with, and we should bring awareness to all the ways of being a woman. And I would say the same is true for manhood. Do I think Hershey's is virtue signaling at the end of the day? Yeah. I don't think most of these companies give a fuck about human rights issues. It's a good sentiment. I mean, I would rather see advertising like this than the opposite, but I think most people would agree that this is performative. I do think that the reaction to this specific campaign highlights the transphobia that is deeply rooted in the United States. I know this ad was for Hershey's Canada, but as you just saw, Americans still had a lot to say about the situation. Nonetheless, many government officials are intent on taking trans rights away, with some success so far. A lot of cis queers are worried that they're gonna come for gay marriage next, and trust me, as a lesbian, I think that's a valid fear, but trans rights are being taken away now. So it's time we stand up for our trans siblings. I'll leave some resources in the description in case you want to learn how to help the transgender community in this time of crisis. Please feel free to share any and all your thoughts. I'm very curious to hear what you think of the situation. If there are any other current events that you'd like to see me talk about, please also let me know in the comments. And in general, if there's anything in particular you'd like to see me talk about, I have a Google form linked in the description where you could submit your video ideas. Thank you so much for watching today's video. If you enjoyed it, make sure to give it a tiny, tiny thumbs up and subscribe down below. I love you guys, and I'll see you next time with a brand new video. Bye!